Hello everybody and welcome back once more to Anime Yay or Nay. I am TheOutbackAl.
I'm Yin&Jung.
I'm Noob.
I'm NV Jitters.
I'm CheerandCosplay.
And I'm Kozi.
And it's the second week of Spooky Month. It's a good month. It's a fun time to be talking about things, and new stuff is coming out left and right. Netflix gave us something new, Castlevania Nocturne, sequel to the show that I feel like we all enjoyed, though to varying degrees it may seem. Originally, I very much enjoyed the original.
I enjoyed it, but
Yeah.
I think the last couple of seasons there were some things that bothered me, but I feel like the stuff when Dracula was alive was the best, but I feel like it was pretty solid overall.
So, new one came out, Castlevania Nocturne, now set years and years, 300 years in the future, the descendants of the Belmonts and
The
stuff.
American Revolution.
French
The
Revolution.
French.
American Revolution already happened.
Yeah, this show is loosely, and I put that in the quotation marks, loosely based off of Castlevania Rondo of Blood. That
And
came
Symphony
out
of the
in
No,
early-
it absolutely is not. I'm gonna stop you there. It's not even loosely.
It's inspired by
It's based off. No, they took part of Portrait of Rune and then the characters from Rondo of Blood. But very specifically, they took their designs from Dracula X and they mashed those together and spit it out and called it a new story.
Oh.
But it's way worse than either of the games because Rondo of Blood was pretty bad. Portrait of Rune has a mixed reception.
Oh boy.
But
I don't know if we just haven't gotten to the plot
Ooh.
points yet, but the wiki is also saying that it's also based on Symphony of the Night, which I have heard of. So
sort of.
Symphony of the Night is the sequel to Rondo of Blood, and in that, Richter is the bad guy.
I
Okay,
think that
I'm
would
real
probably
here.
be the next couple of
Yeah,
seasons.
maybe he gets
it would
there.
come along probably later.
I'm gonna be real here, and I'm not gonna try. I'm trying not to bury the lead too much. I didn't have as much fun with this as I did with the original Castlevania. If Richter ends up being a bad guy, that could be very interesting, and I might be down for that.
Does he stay a bad guy?
No.
No. Okay.
They kind of say it's both mind control, but also because every Castlevania game, in the series, it's almost always you're fighting against Dracula because he gets revived every
Right.
100 years.
Yeah.
So, Richter was each Belmont that goes up against him, they only have, one chance. And he felt that his fight against Dracula wasn't that good, so he wanted to, do it over and re-summon Dracula. And, that was his actual desire that led him to being brainwashed and trying to stab his friends.
I gotta
But
be real.
Symphony of the Night...
That sounds great. That sounds like
Symphony
very
of the
interesting.
Night was the first game where Alucard came back as, a main protagonist.
Okay.
Hey, that's why you heard of it.
Why I heard of it?
Yeah.
No, I just heard that it was good or something, or at least was very famous. Maybe infamous. I don't know.
Well, no, it's the most. It's
It's the most famous iteration of the games.
It probably
that
has
particular
one of the
game.
best titles at the very least. It's the title is very evocative.
well, it also
But-
created a genre because it created the Metroidvania genre.
Did the original Castlevania and Metroid not help with that?
The original Castlevania was a side scroller.
Well, aren't Metroidvanias side scrollers still?
Yes.
And platform? Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's all kind of the same.
It's
It's
thing.
called
Yeah.
Metroidvania because Metroid in Castlevania.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
Castroid would not
they're
work.
saying they're saying it wasn't the original Castlevania. It was Symphony of the Night that made the jump.
Okay, I feel like we're getting a little bit in the weeds as far as the game
Yeah.
stuff. We should talk about the show. So, yeah, like we said, this is Richter Belmont, 300 years after Trevor, Sypha, and Alucard, though presumably Alucard can probably still be alive, seeing as he's kind of immortal. But whatever. Yeah, they're in the French Revolution, and there's vampires in the Marquis and the aristocrats and all that sort of stuff, and also a vampire messiah on the way, and now we have a new group of protagonists who are going to try to kill them. And I don't know what else to say about plot after that point, because we were either going into spoilers or a lot of analysis on stuff, which I don't know. Where are we all feeling with this?
Okay.
Well, I mean, as far as plot, we can go over the first 3 episodes, and there was
I think we can go to episode 4 because that's where me and Cece stopped for the night.
Okay.
And Chibi said she went to 5, yeah?
Yeah, I've watched through episode 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can at least do half of it.
All right, so a little more detail. Richter's mom got killed by an Aztec vampire, and then he...
Okay, and it's kind of almost entirely his fault, because she fucking had it until he came in.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. And now he's living with some other people that you were convinced that he was, like, cousins of, and they're, like, not.
They are distant cousins.
Yeah, mega distant.
Yeah, they're not directly related. She is his quote-unquote aunt.
Oh, aunt.
Because...
Yeah, aunt, like, I lived with you for years, but you're not my mom, you're my aunt.
No. You have to keep in mind, the Belmont line is now part speaker.
Yeah, from 300 years ago.
And it doesn't matter. They've kept in line with speakers because they still need to learn how to use their powers.
So every Belmont hooked up with a speaker?
No.
I'm just saying, this feels like a 10th cousin kind of situation.
Stay in contact with the speaker clan they're an offshoot of.
Okie doke.
They are still, every speaker is family.
Okay, but Yin was saying like, oh no, that's like your actual
No,
aunt.
I didn't mean that. I did mean distant.
Okay.
Well, his mom did say she was sending him to live with his aunt, and then
in France.
There was a time skip, and she was he was living with
a
woman in France. So
she said very specifically, your Aunt Tara, and her name is
maybe
Tara.
They're not even distant. I don't know. They're related. They're family. That's all we know.
Whatever. Someone later said they're like third cousins 15, 20, 1,000 times removed. That's an actual line.
Close enough.
Either way, they are family and act like family.
Aztec vampires.
Yes.
When do we ever get to say that again?
The Aztec vampire. We're in France now.
Yes.
The Aztec vampire's still in America.
No, he not.
He was for the first episode.
Yeah, but we're talking all the way through episode 4, aren't we?
We haven't gotten there yet.
I'm bouncing around a little bit. I mean, what do you want me to say? They're fighting vampires
well, get your
and stuff.
ADHD
Let's see what.
under
No
control.
way! Don't you dare! You don't.
It's ADHD Awareness Month.
Now we need to round out the rest of the group. We got Tara, the aunt. We got her daughter Maria. There's the. Did they say specifically where they are from? I want to say it's like the Dominican Republic or something.
I don't remember.
Annette,
I forget where.
Well, yeah, but I'm pretty sure the Dominican Republic was the one that actually had a slave uprising that succeeded.
I looked it up. It's where Haiti.
Oh, Haiti. Okay.
They're from Saint Domingue.
Okay, it was all right.
Yeah, Annette and I forget how do you pronounce that guy's name?
Edward.
Yeah,
Edward.
it's just spelled weird because old timey.
Edward.
Edward. Yes, the opera singer Edward. I'm like, why did you bring an opera singer? Okay.
He's an opera singer that can fight with a sword.
Okay. Yeah,
he did kick some ass in episode 2. Things happen.
And they're gonna they all go to France and they're teaming up to fight against not the patriarchy specifically, the aristocracy. It was the other thing that rules society. Yeah. And the vampires that are helping to run it and the church sort of because
they teamed up.
And then
well, it's funny too because later on in the show we find out that that a bunch of vampires basically own the slave trade, or at least are heavily involved in it. So I'm thinking every single bad world event in history in this universe can be attributed to vampires.
I mean, when you have Dracula as a scapegoat, you might as well use him.
Yeah, that was a very bold choice for them to make.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's something that you see a bunch of times. Anyway, anytime you have American vampires, one of them was a slave owner. Like, Interview with a Vampire, whatever True Blood was doing.
Yeah, why are they always like...
I mean, they give you the...
Or they were a Confederate. They were either a slave owner or
because they wanted
Confederate.
slaves.
Yeah.
Like, nothing for nothing. Like, I understand. They even say, like, yeah, you can keep your food as cattle then. It's horrible, and they're monsters. But, it absolutely makes sense.
No, part of the reason I say that is because, again, me and Cece have only watched halfway through, but I really feel like they're not going to bring this full circle. our big bad, this vampire messiah, as we find out, is named
Elizabeth Bathory. Yeah.
Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Elizabeth?
Bathory.
Yeah.
Which
yeah,
is
the other big
Elizabeth Bathory.
Yeah, the other big
yes.
vampire of
Who
literature.
Yes. She's based off of the actual historical figure,
Yes.
Elizabeth Bathory,
Mm-hmm.
who very famously was supposed to have taken slaves specifically.
And
Usually like virgin women
There you go,
slaves.
and
bathed in their blood.
there we go. I was like waiting. You're like really burying the lead here. I'm like,
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what's coming.
But like very famously, she took slaves to do that. So if they could have like brought that full circle, but I don't think they're going to because they made her come from Russia in this.
Yeah.
I mean, she is from Eastern Europe to begin with.
Yeah, she's Hungarian.
I mean,
So-
she was definitely in Russia at some point. Doesn't necessarily mean she's from Russia. I mean, people travel around quite a bit. We saw vampires in the last show from all over the world. And now some of them are here now, and she's got her little lieutenants and stuff. Droltra, hang on. These goddamn names. Oh, God. How do I say that?
Drolta?
She has a last name. How do I say that?
Zweltas?
Zwunt?
I
Okay.
don't think it matters.
Well, either way, visually the coolest character in the whole show, quite frankly.
Yeah, her design was pretty cool.
Serving looks every scene she's in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But honestly, Orlocks looks awesome.
Oh, he's the coolest.
I love Orlocks.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the Aztec vampire, and I'm trying not to make
we're
JoJo references
Kind
right
of
now.
spinning off here. Back to plot.
Back to plot. I mean, that's the plot. You're setting
Yeah,
up all the people that you're going to fight.
It. Yeah.
They try to infiltrate the marquee full of vampires, and it goes bad. And then one of them
And again,
don't get
a
did.
very bold choice.
Well, considering that, just so happens that the Marquis is hosting the former slave owner of Annette, so she kind of
Mhm.
goes into a bit of a rage.
As one
No,
would.
that's episode 3, not episode 2.
Oh, whatever, but you get my
I am not following. I forget what
Yeah,
happened
I
in
think we're
episode
just giving a
2.
rough,
I don't think
like,
anyone
episode-
cares.
Episode 2 is where Edward dies as they're running away.
Yeah. And then
Which again, another very bold choice to establish a gay black man as part of the main cast and then off him first.
well, he doesn't stay off
Yeah.
forever, so is it technically kill your gays?
He does come back.
Yes.
He's undead. That's
He's
still dead.
He's still dead, and like he has lost all of his identity, thus stripping away the humanity of a black person.
We'll
Happy LGBT History Month.
we'll get first off that I thought that month was June. Am I crazy?
No, that's Pride Month. LGBT History Month is October.
News to me. Well, let's celebrate that a little bit. But I don't want to spoil things for people who haven't watched. As far as me, that plot point will come back.
Yes.
God damn it. I can't talk about that.
Yeah, I know what you mean now because
Yeah.
I saw all 8 episodes too. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
if me, you, and Yin did a separate spoiler talk for all 8 episodes, I'm sure we can go a lot deeper.
Is everyone
in
else
our
cool
discussion.
just like leaving halfway through?
Regardless, still a very bold choice.
Yeah.
Well,
They've
yeah.
made some. Well,
But-
honestly, I don't want to say most of their choices have been bold. They've actually been a little bit boring, in my opinion, from a character standpoint.
Yeah. I think they made the wrong bold choices, and the rest were.
Well,
Probably.
okay,
So-
I'm not. I was afraid to bring it up, but since you brought up it earlier in a little bit, let's. We guess we have to mention the elephant in the room.
What?
Annette was a completely different character. It just so happens that she shares the same name as a character from
I
Rondo of
swear
Blood.
to
They
fucking God, if they do not make Annette the love interest, I am going to stab a hoe.
Are you okay with the light spoiler?
If I don't have to stab a hoe.
You don't have to stab a hoe. It's just, we're not going to be covering it in any detail this season.
I think she will probably be the love interest.
Yeah, you missed the part where they were basically setting it up. But
I believe
okay,
it,
no, because him and Maria were a little weird there, and I was ready to throw hands.
She gives little sister vibes, and I think that's exactly who she is.
She's supposed to be 10 years old.
Okay, in the first couple episodes, I was also, until I realized she was the cousin or whatever, I thought they were going to set them up, and then I realized she was related to him, and I was like, oh, so they're not. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I like that they're giving Annette, like, more agency and, like, actual purpose to the story.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily agree we need the slave subplot of just, whoa, look at how much black people have suffered.
Well, that's the thing, too. That's why a lot of people are mad, is because Annette, granted, I hear Annette didn't really have that much major of a plot in the original game, but, like, they completely changed her, not only her race, but just, like you said, everything about her backstory, everything. It's like they could have just...
I do like that they changed that, though.
Can I
because
ask?
she was just a damsel in distress. Like,
okay.
Right.
That
she
was
just Princess Peach.
That was going to be my question. So at that point, are you a character or are you simply a prize at the end of the game?
So
in
Rondo stuff for her.
In Rondo of Blood, you can pick up 3 female characters who help fight with you.
Mm-hmm.
One is Tara.
Okay, makes sense.
And she is not Maria's mother. She is just a nun living in the village.
Guess they're just trying to condense some stuff or create other plots.
One is Maria, who, again, is a 10-year-old girl.
The Pokemon trainer.
And then, I forget the last one's name, but she's the village doctor.
The village doctor.
So, like, you have, like, someone with, like, holy power, Maria with her speaker power, and then you just have a healer. Annette doesn't come in until the end of the game at all.
She playable?
And in fact, you can fail to save Annette in the game.
Doesn't she become like a vampire or something in some route?
Yeah, if you fail to save her, she becomes Carmilla incarnate.
Ooh, Carmilla.
See,
and then you
that
got
was
Offer.
A fun character.
Yeah, I think they made some good choices in giving her more of a character in this than it sounds like she ever had in the game. Though I agree that the backstory maybe could have used some work, but I think it was, otherwise, I think it was a good thing largely.
Just a quick note before we continue. The character you're talking about is Iris, the daughter of the village doctor. I just looked that up real quick. Please continue.
Putting, like, episode 3 on, like, a pause. Episode 4 is just an entire flashback of how much Annette's life has fucking sucked in, like, kind of torture porn.
Yeah.
It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I mean, that was kind of the point.
I think there's been a lot of, like, warranted criticism in recent years about, like, all Black stories focusing on, like, slavery and misery and stuff. And, like, there's been more of a push for stories about Black joy and, like, and more, like, looking towards the future than just focusing on, like, the slavery in the past, which is what most movies used to focus on. So I think, like, moving away from that kind of backstory might have worked a little bit better. So I kind of agree with you.
They didn't have to make her, like, they could have still had her fighting for, like, slave freedom.
Yeah.
Without having her have been a tortured slave, because, I mean, look at Edward.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, like, her getting her powers from, like, kind of voodoo, kind of African gods is, like, a weird choice to make, I feel like. And very, like, stereotypical in a bad way.
I think, like, utilizing some of that could have been interesting, but I think it was, like, done sort of, I don't know.
I think it presents an interesting thought here, because mostly what we've seen is either evil devil magic or the speaker magic.
Yeah.
It is kind of an interesting idea to sort of round out. Maybe there's some other cultural looks at different kinds of magic, other stuff like that. I mean, it at least expands possible forms of lore, because, like, I think they were touching on that a little bit in the 4th season of Castlevania, where I think they had Trevor found a weapon. It was essentially like a cross with knives, and it was like it was made out in India or whatever, and Cypher was like, well, why would a cross, like, fuck with a Hindu vampire if they don't believe in that sort of like theology. And he was like, it actually has nothing to do with the actual like Christian element of it. There's like a weird thing because they have like predator eyes. If you put certain shapes in front of them, it fucks with their vision. I'm like, that's interesting. What other elements could be included like this? So I think at the very least, you do have, even if you're saying that maybe there's a possibility of this is leaning into maybe some stereotype, this is leaning into this is leaning into that, it still at least presents a new possible way of fighting this common threat, which does exist across the world.
It's not so much that these things existed. I think they should have picked one or the other, not tried to have shoved both.
I might be crazy here, but isn't some degree of like the Western thoughts of hoodoo, voodoo, these sort of things, aren't they somewhat based on African religious practices?
No,
what I thought.
I think a lot of it was like born out of Creole culture.
Well, where did that come from, though?
I don't know. Let's take a look.
Hoodoo is a spiritual religious tradition created by enslaved African Americans in the United States and inspired by Central and West African religious practices.
Yeah, I think it...
Yeah, it's like an interpretation that formed over time, more or less probably out of isolation because they were away from the homeland, I guess.
And then the white people were like, oh, that is sacrilegious, that is evil magic.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we tend to do that.
Hoodoo and voodoo are not the same. Oh boy.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned both. Which
one did they specifically have?
Hang on. God, Wikipedia, save me.
Voodoo was the one that came out of Haiti.
Well, there you go.
So probably voodoo then, yeah.
Yeah.
I could get what you're saying, with, presenting it in a, stereotypical light, but I will say that storyline, at least towards the back half of the season, kind of pays off for Annette a little bit in terms of character growth on, like, where she starts mentally at the beginning of the show versus the end of the season, at least to me. So I kind of like that in that regard.
I gotta be real with you here. I agree with you. And expanding upon that, I feel like Annette was the only person who actually had character development in this entire show.
I mean, Richter did a little bit, too.
He did not.
Richter just got a power-up.
I'm gonna be real with you. He full-on Gary Stews.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like throwing that around. He fucking Gary Stewed, man.
I couldn't stand Richter, man.
He's kind of boring as fuck.
He was just an anime protagonist. His whole personality is just, my mom died, and now I'm kind of angsty, and now I got a power up.
I mean, we'll just have to agree to disagree on that one.
We'll have to. I don't want to go into what all happens later, because people haven't seen it yet. They can find their own opinions on that. But you have to admit, you're seeing what I'm saying with the Gary Stew thing, right?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I personally felt what happened at the end of episode 4 when he, got the panic attack and got scared of the Aztec guy and ran away, and and his drama that he deals with in episode 5 and 6. To me, that kind of worked for me. Because for a while, I thought he was getting upstaged by other characters in the show. And so those moments where they focused on him and his development with that other character, which I won't name,
he had a bit.
That to me, that worked. That worked.
Not a lot.
I just feel like if they had expanded on his relationship with that other character, because I know who you're talking about, and if they had actually given them time together and time to hone his skills and things like that in a more natural way, I think it would have helped his character a lot.
Oh.
But it just kind of skipped around.
Well,
I'm going to assume you're speaking about one specific character they introduced at the end of episode 5.
You're probably right.
I think you guys are dancing around it, but I think I know who this is. Is it just Belmont?
Are we allowed to just say this?
Yeah, we are. It is.
Cool.
It is
Grandpa shows up.
But
okay.
He's
not his grandpa.
He is in the show.
Is he in the show? Okay.
He is in the show.
I will say, as far as that goes, I wish they would have introduced him sooner.
Yeah, I know.
Here's my biggest issue, and I hear what you were saying, Yin, about like, okay, you kind of wasted an opportunity to do a thing where you get like a little bit of like a learning thing. Here's the ultimate thing. You could have had a whole season with that, and because of his Gary Stew moment, we will not have that.
Yeah.
Well, here's my thing, and here's I'll say this. I understand what you're talking about, with Gary Stu, because later on in the show, Richter becomes insanely powerful, like almost more powerful than Trevor in some ways. But
it was bullshit.
You know what? I can agree. Well, I can at least see where you're coming from with that. My thing, and this is kind of what I thought going into it, and again, maybe they could have expanded on this better, but my thing was that, to me, Richter always had the potential to be that powerful. He was just closed off because he was scared the entire time. And once he got over that trauma, that's when he basically let go and basically opened up his full potential. That's how I interpret it.
I agree, but
he has a friendship is my true power moment.
Sort of, yes.
Like goes Super Saiyan.
He does.
Yeah, absolutely. He's 100% it. Here's my problem with it, and it's not that he had power welling up inside of him, because we know he couldn't use his magic for 10 years. My problem was how he did it. It's not that this happened, it's that how it happened that I have a problem.
Did he have a magic
Can I fucking spoil it?
No.
I have a problem with it all.
Can I just say it?
Nah,
We
don't
might
spoil
have
it.
to step
Okay,
away,
I'm like,
if we're gonna talk
I just
about
really
it.
want to just talk about
I mean,
it.
I'm probably not going to continue it, but I can't speak for everyone here.
Oh,
Who else is here? Who else is here that hasn't seen it?
Well, Cece said yes, so.
So wait, I'm allowed to spoil?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, vampires take him and his grandpa hostage. They're going to kill him, and then he has his anime power-up moment where he suddenly taps into his magical powers that have been dormant for 10 years and blows them all away with all sorts of fucking magic. Now...
So, magical ejaculation.
Almost. There was some penis imagery in there a little bit. Look, here's what I'm saying. Envy, I hear what you're saying, and I actually agree with you on some level of this, of like this whole, okay, it was dormant for a number of years, but like it's still growing, it's still powerful, and like maybe even his emotions were feeding into it. Had we actually gotten to see any of those along the way, that could have been nice. Here's my problem. The last time he used magic, all he had was little pew-pew fire spit.
Yeah, how'd he get so good?
If they had just been like, he has no control over it, he's just blasting fire everywhere as soon as the powers open up, I could have totally accepted that. But all of a sudden, he can control fire, he can control ice, he can control lightning, he can do it with
perfectly.
Perfectly.
It's like he's
absolutely
super
fucking
skilled,
perfectly.
And it's like, how?
Here's
because
why
it's a
I hate
completely different kind of speaker magic than Maria and Tara are wielding.
Here's what my thing is, that you just gave him all that. You could have had like the whole boom explosion fire thing, and then his grandfather, who is also a very good sorcerer, teaches him how to control it over the next season. That's a bonding thing with your grandfather. Let me finish. You could also, because Annette's also dealing with that sort of thing, with her own magic, you have a possible bonding experience between the two of them, learning how to use both their individual magics. You have character progression possibilities with him, learning how to deal with the different elements and different stuff like that. No, you just decided he's going to be perfect at everything out the gate. Very fucking Gary Stu, and I hate it. And honestly, what makes it worse is that they did a good job with this in the previous show with Sypha. She's a beginner magician at the beginning of the show, and as the show progresses, her spells get more complex, her spells get more powerful, she adds more elements. At first, she couldn't use lightning. It was just a little bit of fire and a couple shapes of ice. But the further she goes, the more skilled she gets,
and then she drops a whole castle on them.
Exactly. Richter? Yeah, I was shooting spitballs when I was 10, and now suddenly I am anime god protagonist out of nowhere, and he literally says, I don't know how I did any of that. I'm like, fuck you, dude.
I don't know about the ability to master it without ever having, like, really used it, but I will say, canonically, every Belmont gets stronger.
I get that.
Richter is, like... I forget up until who, but like he was considered like the strongest Belmont for a very long time.
I have no issue with that. Just seems to be about the same kind of thing. He was the most powerful spellcaster, blah, 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 and then he had a mental block kind of thing, whatever. I'm saying he can have a shit ton of power. I'm saying he should not have the skills to use it effectively.
He should have just had everything explode.
Yes.
Is what you're saying.
Honestly, yes.
I think it just would have made for better character development if it had taken him time to hone these skills.
Yeah,
so
like
what I was gonna say is that and I hate to bring this up because it just brings me more aggravation, but
Go for it.
you're probably feeling what a lot of people felt about Rey from the sequel trilogy on how she gets powerful right out of the gate with not a lot of training.
Like, raw power is one thing. You can do a lot off of instinct. At least for the first movie, I don't think I had too much of a problem. She does some pulls and pushes. There's not a whole lot else.
Yeah.
Well, she
honestly,
beats Kylo Ren.
First movie,
Yeah.
I thought it was fine. Also, she's the protagonist.
Yeah.
I kind of give her a bit of leeway because she has protagonist armor. Not me trying to defend the sequel trilogy, but
Look,
you guys know I don't hate them.
I'm just going to say, I think there were bigger problems in that trilogy than just Rey.
Yeah.
I think those might have been one of the lesser problems, quite frankly. But please
but
continue.
that argument that you were saying about Richter, like him just getting uber powerful right out of the gate with not a lot of training or build up, that's what a lot of people thought about Rey. So
Am
that's
I
why
wrong, though? I don't feel like I'm wrong. I'm like, I'm fine with him being.
I guess it just.
having a lot of power.
I guess it just didn't bother me the way that it bothered you. I guess that's the best way for me to put it.
And that's fair.
Okay, so it's
I
not
totally
so much
get
that
what you're
he's
saying.
powerful, it's just that he had the mastery of it.
That's
where
my
he shouldn't
issue.
have.
Like,
It's like if Deku didn't break his fingers every time he tried to do it.
Yeah, it just makes me care about the character much less. Because it's like, okay, now he's OP. He didn't have to work for it. He didn't have to suffer through, you know? It's like, it's kind of like what Cece's saying, where it's like, we grow to like Deku because he struggles, you know?
Yeah.
If a character doesn't struggle, I don't care, you know?
It's sounding like they may have rushed this season in terms of like everything that's happening. Because when you think back to the original, like you had the battle for the city.
Yes.
And
that was the first
waking
season.
up Alucard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it.
Yep.
Like, that was the entirety of the plot.
I mean, let's be honest. The first season was just basically a giant pilot for the rest of the series. Like,
yeah, but it was a pilot that
concept.
actually worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I?
You guys know me. Season 1 of the original Castlevania was the one that I liked, and the others made me feel underwhelmed. Because I felt like they were doing too much. I'm like, please build it out. We're going too fast for the rest of this. Like, I like the slow pacing for that first one because I'm like, this is building atmosphere, and I love that. I want to be in this world. I just am learning too many things.
I like the first season a lot. Yeah,
Chibi, I agree with what you're saying, and I think like more than that, probably another reason you liked it is because they spent so much time working on the characters, which they don't do here. Like, I think ultimately...
Season 2, they worked on the villains. I'm like, where is my main posse? Can we go back?
I feel you on that.
Yeah.
Here's what I think ultimately was the problem, and it kind of came back to, like, sort of a blueprint issue that they had. Whereas the first Castlevania, especially the first season, started with establishing who these characters were, what they were about, what their motivations to do things were, and then having them take those motivations and turn them into actions that actually affected the plot. This one was like, here's the plot we need, and now we just need the characters to do things because the plot needs them to. Not because it's something that the character should or would do, because there's really no characters here, other than maybe Annette, who is working with her own motivations and an understandable character. Everyone else is just doing what they're doing because the plot needs them to do that.
Yeah, like it feels very unfocused.
Yes, because no one's there for any rip. Why is Maria a revolutionary? Because she is. Because the plot requires her to be.
And she has no other personality trait aside from she's a revolutionary.
Weirdly enough, her entire character arc is entirely backwards because she does not get a motivation to be the way she is until the end of the series.
Crazy,
can I ask a question?
Sure.
That you guys might know the answer to, you might not. I feel like Tara and the priest were like making eyes at each other. Did they fuck?
Yeah.
Yes, they did. The priest is her father. Maria's
okay,
father.
So hear me out here. Do Maria's story in reverse, okay? Because here's the thing. Like, I understand the idea of like sporting certain revolutionary ideas, things like that. But when it comes down to this person who's standing on a soapbox preaching to the crowd and being like, here's what we need to do. What is your personal stake? There's always a personal stake for that person. They're not just the person listening or like supporting the person up top. They're the person speaking. You have been personally affected by whatever's going on. Nothing in the show has shown any reason why Maria gives a shit. Now, you establish right out the gate that her deadbeat dad is the priest who's part of the hierarchy that she's trying to overthrow. I absolutely understand where she's coming from. Okay, that's a character. Let's go. But they don't do that.
No, I actually agree with you 100% on that. I do think that Maria was the least developed out of all the major characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, her first scene was her preaching to a very small crowd and just like fight the revolution. It's like, but why?
And every time someone asks her that, she's just like, because. And that's
also,
it.
Like, it's very weird that their revolution was also kind of specifically centered on fighting vampires, at least from what we had seen. Because it's not like the people who came to that first meeting were, like, unaware vampires existed, which, by the way, what happened to people being unaware vampires existed?
You know, I really don't know. They're just, like, out in the streets now. Also,
here's my theory on that. Maybe after season 4 ended, the remaining vampires went into hiding secretly so they won't get, caught. It's just that Belmonts keep finding them from the shadows over the years and killing them.
But literally no one was surprised to see vampires.
Can I ask, did the sun get nerfed? I feel like in the last show, any bit of sunlight caused them to start bursting into flame. And now, vampires walk around the daytime with, like, little sun umbrellas.
Maybe they're more powerful.
Wasn't there, like, a summer with no sun sometime in, like, 17 or 1800s? I forget when it was.
But we literally see the sun.
Well, no, because there is one scene where, what's the one vampire's name with the flaming hair? What's her name?
Lenore.
In Nocturne.
Oh.
Drolta.
Drolta.
She's servant looks.
Yeah, servant looks. There was a moment where she was in the church and she put her hand in the sunlight and she started to burn a little bit. So it's not like they're not unaffected by sunlight.
The whole
point,
yeah, but
and the whole point of the vampire messiah is for her to cause an eclipse to black out the sun eternally. So it's still bothering.
It just feels like they're way less concerned about it than they used to be.
She stepped out with a dinky little umbrella to cover her.
That's what I'm saying. And it's not even like she was okay. Remember oh god, what was her name? Barbarian vampire with the super sun armor. She was like completely encased and I was like, why isn't your hair burning?
The lesbian?
Yes.
Yeah, one of the lesbians. Yeah.
Loved her, loved the armor, super cool. Now she could have done the same thing with just a little dainty umbrella. You kidding me right now?
Know. I mean, that's just kind of a nitpick to me. I felt like
it's a little bit, but it bugs me.
I think it was there for aesthetics.
What, the armor or the dainty thing?
I think the umbrella.
The umbrella.
Yeah, because like
do
sunlight. The reason we see is the sunlight's reflecting off of things. So like,
yeah,
why would that still not have burned her?
Exactly. It doesn't fucking matter to them anymore,
man. The moonlight not burn because that's just sunlight bouncing off the moon.
They didn't know that back then. So
That's true. That's true.
That's basically a plot hole for every vampire story.
I mean, when you really want to think about it, all stars in the sky are more or less suns themselves.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think. Well, they probably weren't thinking that deeply about it, but also, like, maybe it's just that I'm making excuses for her, but it might just be her power level.
Oh,
she might just be more powerful.
So she can walk around with a dainty umbrella, but Dracula was stuck in the shadows.
I figure it's because maybe
that was just his choice. Maybe he wanted to just stay in the dark all the time.
Okay, all right, you know what? That's fair.
Dracula
Dracula
like some
definitely
sunset windows.
The sun doesn't hurt him. He's just emo.
Dracula definitely would do it purely for the aesthetic.
He was. I mean,
yeah, he was. He was a little antisocial.
I mean, all Dracula wanted to do was spend time with his wife, and then look what happened to him and her.
Yeah.
So
yeah, like he was literally antisocial to the point his wife had to order him to go on a trip around the world.
Yeah, look how well that... you gotta admit, they met again. They'd be like, so, I should have taken a trip? You really think... So was that a good idea?
He's like, can I just stay home?
Wait,
Maybe just do that from now on. I could be a homebody. Pretty easy.
Did you not see the scene where they were together and alive?
No, I did. I'm just, like, wondering if that came up. Like, hey, remember when you told me to go travel and then bad things happened? Maybe we don't do that again.
I'm surprised they did not. Or maybe they did and I'm just forgetting, but I feel like that did not come to, like, an actual conclusion.
No, they were just traveling around.
Yeah. Weird.
Fun little note is he had his vampire claws on his left hand, but not on his right hand because his wife was
And we
back.
know why.
Yeah. Be like Dracula. That's what I'm saying.
He drank that respect his wife juice.
yeah, even in season 2, when Carmela was like, so why didn't he just turn his wife into a vampire? It's like, because he respects her too much to do that.
Like, she probably would have asked for it eventually when she figured out Adrian wasn't aging anymore, but...
I mean, could have been fair. Yeah. Well,
to be
we'll
fair,
never know.
he was technically only, like, what, 4?
Yeah, I was still pretty young.
When she died, or when what?
No, he said he, like, grew within, like...
4 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Which is, like, fairly common for vampires to do, like, at least in the folklore. Like, they age fairly quickly. So.
And then just
So, like,
stop.
Like an anime protagonist.
We don't know how old he is, but we can assume he's much younger than we thought.
Oh, no, we did look it up. At the start of the series, he's 20, because I was very concerned that my OT3 was a bad thing.
That is a valid concern.
I mean,
Yeah.
It was a valid
there is
concern
also
then.
the very valid
okay.
concern of he gets literally raped at the beginning of season 3, so...
Not the beginning. It was like the
No,
end
that
of
was
season 3.
yeah, that was like that was probably my favorite. Well, that it came out wrong, but like that whole climax.
Oh my God.
And well, no, because like it was part of episode 9 of season 3, where it was basically a giant heavy metal album coming to life. Because literally every single climax was convulsing into one, and me just having the ultimate. Yes.
Okay.
Like literally,
beginning might have been the wrong word. I think of it more as like the first act of season 3.
No, that was towards the end.
Towards the end.
Because literally, at the beginning of season 3, Alucard is just alone in his castle.
Crazy.
Yeah, he's talking to.
That might have been one of the best scenes.
Yeah, he's talking to dolls of Trevor and Sypha. Oh my god!
I think I may be going mad. Yeah, that was great. Anyway, this show. Yeah, so I genuinely feel like most of the characters, just to sum up my point from before, most of the characters are there for no other reason than because the plot requires them to do whatever they're supposed to do, and they don't have a reason to be there themselves. Rickard is the... Richter. Sorry. I'm looking at Richard Dormer as Emmanuel the Abbot. I'm sorry, I have the list in front of me and stuff. Yeah, Richter Belmont is a Belmont and he kills fucking vampires because the story needs a Belmont who kills fucking vampires. Maria is a revolutionary because it requires her to be a revolutionary. Tara, I don't have that many problems with Tara necessarily, I don't think.
The evil priest is an evil priest just cuz.
Don't even get me started on him.
Now, hold on. He had some motivation. They were bad motivations.
His motivation was to, like, preserve his religion. But he's working with fucking vampires to bring about eternal night.
And a Necronomicon from hell.
Yeah, he was the biggest hypocrite, and I know that's the point, but he infuriated me, especially with what happens during the last episode. I was like, you motherfucker. I hope Alucard sticks that sword straight up your asshole through your mouth and just splits you in half.
Here's my thing, because like most of what I'm saying is a major issue for me with like lack of character motivation, lack of like a reason to be doing these things, is the protagonist. Other than Annette, I think everything that she did felt like a logical progression of what had happened to her, what she then did after that, and then after that, like, she joined the revolution that destroyed the slave masters in Haiti. What did she do after that, after the freedom was secured for them? I'm going to go after the guy who specifically messed with me. There's a story of revenge there, but it's also she's learning along the way, and she also has like some spiritual stuff with her magic that I think will continue in character development. Though. Yeah, she came to France for a reason, and it makes sense why she did that, and then why she continued to do the things that she does throughout the series. No one else really has that. With the villains, they're mustache twirly as fuck, and I'm kind of down for it. Like,
yeah, they're not as depthful as the ones in the first series, at least not the main villains in the first series.
Yeah.
Like, villains like Isaac and Hector and
Carmilla,
they all had like something that made them...
They were Game of Thrones characters.
Yeah, it's like they had interesting motivations and they were sympathetic in a lot of ways.
And plans and shit.
Maybe not Carmilla as much, but...
Yeah. If you're bringing up Isaac and Hector...
Mm-hmm.
And again, this could just be something I'm forgetting, but like, what was the thing about the priest having to have sold his soul to become a forge master?
I always thought that was kind of metaphorical. I don't know.
No, they quite specifically said, like, he made a deal to do it. And I did not think that was what forge masters were.
I thought the deal was the alliance that he made with the vampires, and then they gave him the book to get the stuff going.
No,
they
he was very specifically, I think that guy's name is Mizrak?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Crusader, who's now on the team. We didn't really talk about him.
Oh, by the way, the Aztec is gay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So is the Crusader.
Yes.
Which, again, does not make a lot of sense, but we'll roll with it.
It makes as much sense as anything else.
Well, yeah, it's just...
he really cares about God, but he's sleeping with a gay vampire? Yeah.
I mean, if the priest can A, have an affair and have a child, and B, literally work with the devil's minions, I think we can give the Crusader some slack.
Yeah, I think Mizrak's a couple rungs above him as far as righteousness goes.
I don't think they really care about God, which makes it very odd that they try to focus so much on them caring deeply about their religion.
I think that's part of the theme of hypocrisy.
Here's the thing. Catholic Church, incredibly hypocritical, as someone who has grown up in it.
That is so fair, Chibi.
Yeah.
Well, and also this is an anime, because fight me, but in anime in particular, every time there's an evil church or it's usually an evil church, it always goes to, I'm fighting this battle in the name of God, when it's really over my selfish desires. Or trying to get power.
All a la Claude Frodo from Hunchback.
I was going to even say, the priests who were in the first Castlevania were very much like that. The ones who burned Dracula's wife, straight up was that dude. He was less apologetic about it, though, which I almost kind of respect.
Yeah, and he also died.
Respect that even more.
And, okay, so when Mizrak and, what's the vampire's name? Olrox.
Yeah.
Right. When they're talking...
I kept thinking that, too, because of Nosferatu, but it's Olrox.
Oh, it's not
Olrox.
Yeah.
No, we're thinking of Nosferatu.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
what is
so...
Olrox.
When they are having that conversation, he very specifically says he made a deal to become a forge master. And I'm like, am I misremembering it? Because I swear to God, Hector got it when he was like a kid.
He did.
I thought it was just something they were kind of like born with.
He slapped 2 coins together and he brought his puppy back to life. I feel like the deal they're talking about, like the selling your soul thing, very much a metaphor. Like, he sold his integrity. He sold his faith away, or whatever kind of thing. Like, I don't think there was literally, like, the devil came out and shake on it. We're going to do a crossroads deal, blah, blah. We've been watching Supernatural a lot. I really feel like it's metaphor here. Like, he's one of those...
he made a deal with a demon for the power that he has in reference to his ability to be a Forge Master.
I think we'd probably have
to wondering
look
if...
back. I don't think we can...
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. The deal he got, the book, which taught him how to be a Forge Master. Who do you think he got that from? The vampires. That's who he made a deal with.
I wasn't that far! I didn't know he learned it from a book. That's what I was trying to get at. I'm like, is he not, like, a real Forge Master?
Who...
I think there are different ways to get to that.
So
he built the machine to do the do.
He is a fake one, which explains why the night creatures we're seeing are so different from what we saw Hector and Isaac creating.
Oh, and why they're not obeying as much.
Maybe this is a different form of necromancy, because this is at least what I'm thinking of the Forge Mastery to be. Because that's essentially what it is.
It's like third-party Forge Mastery. So he doesn't have the copyright and IP rights to all of his night creatures. This is going to be chaotic.
While I will say they were, like, messed up looking through Hector and Isaac's creations, like, they were very sinister by design. Like, and then... the priests all kind of feel like he failed at changing them from, like, a human corpse. Also, I don't think they actually needed corpses in Castlevania. I think they needed the souls.
I feel like visually, easier to just grab a dead body.
Yeah.
Also,
just my thought for interpretation.
Maybe just another thing, and maybe we're thinking about this too hard. Maybe they just wanted to use some new monster designs.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
And this is how they thought about doing it. And they're like, oh, we'll just do a throwaway line, and no one will question it.
This is what happens when the fans overanalyze stuff more than the actual creators.
It feels like he's the Forge Master. Not that you would get from Wish or Shein. It's the Forge Master you'd get off of fucking Temu.
Are you the Forge Master? I'm the gatekeeper.
I think, like, because doesn't Castlevania have like a crap load of like monster designs and stuff?
Yeah.
Well, that depends. Are you going old school games on the NES, or are you going on like the spin-offs on DS from like the 2000s?
I would just argue the entire franchise.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, I mean, looking back on the first series, that might have been one of the few things that I was kind of like, I was expecting more monsters. Granted, when they was Dracula's army, he probably wanted like a standardized kind of thing, sort of like army units sort of deal, so there probably wasn't going to be a lot of variety. I know when Isaac started doing his own thing, there was a lot of variety in what he was creating. And now there seems to be even more of that. Because they're like,
I am an artiste.
Yeah, and they're kind of going like, well, we don't really have like a standard idea of what we need to do. This guy's new at it. You can basically do whatever, but also maybe get some fan service. Maybe these were like some fan favorite monster designs that didn't get a thing yet in the show.
I mean, there is also potentially the possibility that there might be an in-world explanation of, like, yes, they require a soul, but the soul is still very much housed in there, and how much it can interact with the outside world might be a thing that comes into play. I feel like it would be an interesting thing to explore, at least.
I will say this, and I don't want to spoil anything, but
wait. It does also seem like he has a hard time making them. Because I think in episode 3, he said he only had like 8.
Part of me wonders if that's more of an issue of finding a steady supply of bodies. War is a great way to get a ton of bodies.
The Marquis.
Yeah, but he just had the one vial.
A shit ton of corpses there, my dude. I don't think they're in short supply.
Yeah, but we only saw the one shipment.
The issue is that maybe they just don't have the resources, not in the body sense, but they don't have the resources otherwise.
Maybe he's just bad at it.
I want to throw this out there, and I don't want to spoil anything for later coming stuff, because I feel like I already did too much of that, maybe. But in the previous series, the monsters got, the night creatures, let's be specific about what monsters we're talking about. The night creatures got more unique as they started to have more agency with Isaac. Mm-hmm. Like, some of them started talking, some of them started remembering, some of them started thinking. Maybe the more of the soul that comes back, the more unique the creature.
I mean, that would explain why Edouard was so, very much himself still.
Yeah. Could play into a plot maybe later that I would actually be interested in seeing. And,
well, you're in luck because when we're recording this, it was announced that season 2 is official. It's in production.
Yeah. Oh, the bitch of it is, though, it reinforces my argument of the only reason Edward was there was to fucking die.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And again, a very fucking bold choice to do that with the gay black man you put as your main cast.
I would not say it's a bold choice. I would say it's a controversial choice.
Again, it's like...
Let's just call it that.
The only reason you're there is because the plot needs you to be for a very specific reason that will pay off way further down the line, but you have no actual reason to be there.
I mean, the way I see it is throughout the season, he... obviously he's not human anymore, but he still has some human memories. He still speaks normally, and obviously he could sing because he sings his opera. So maybe the show will go...
He doesn't want to die.
Well, my thing is that maybe in the second season, they'll obviously try to find a way to turn him back into a human, but maybe he'll try to learn on how to live as a night creature and try to see that there's more to being human or there's more to him than just, being a monster.
I mean, certainly an interesting thing. We never really knew what happened with Isaac's nation of night creatures, if that even sustained itself for any period of time. I like the idea of the story. I just wish that it didn't come at the expense of a character's life, and especially for what felt like no reason, because the character had no reason to be there, other than to die.
Like, they really...
He was fridged.
He was very
fridged. They could have done the same storyline with Jacques.
That too.
Yeah.
If you don't know who Jacques was, that was the redhead they killed right at the beginning of episode 1.
Here's the problem. Yeah. Jacques couldn't sing.
They needed those opera moments, man.
He's got a good singing voice. Give him that. All right, I'm trying to think. What else is there to talk about? I feel like we touched on Orlox a little bit. We didn't really go into too much about him. He's kind of the mysterious secret character, so he's very interesting in that, like, ooh, what's he got cooking? But at the same time, it's like, we don't have anything really to work with. What do we talk about him?
He's cool, though.
He's cool, yeah.
I like to watch him, which is more than I can say about most of these characters. So
I will say,
I like him.
I really enjoy his redesign.
There was a couple redesigns here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can kind of like expand on that, but his original purpose, I don't remember if it was Symphony of the Night or not. I don't think it was, but he was a mini boss in Dracula's castle, and he was like a slime alien looking motherfucker. And that was the extent. He wasn't a particularly, like, notable boss or anything.
Do you remember what Drolta looked like in the original game?
Oh, she was a hag.
Yeah, she had a serious glow up.
Oh my god.
And also, let's not forget, too, that unless they bring up some baby back bullshit in Season 2, the main villain of Rondo of Blood and Symphony of the Night were Dracula, because he kept getting resurrected. I don't think they're going to resurrect him in this show, so they obviously needed to create basically a whole new main villain and a whole new, threat.
That is... He may be the final boss, but he's not the main villain. Like, it's not like he comes back wanting to fight. His goons just keep resurrecting him, and, like, that's just kind of like the lot he's stuck with.
Oh god, he's Michael Corleone.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
I will give you main villain of Rondo of Blood, because he's already resurrected there and doing evil shit. Symphony of the Night, there is a guy named Staff, who is a magician, woo-hoo, who is the one trying to resurrect Dracula yet again. But he's doing it with the hope of putting Dracula under his mind control, and then ruling the castle, and then Death being, like, BFFs with Dracula is, like, I don't like that. So
I feel like that was the ending of season 4.
Well, no. Death was completely different in the anime compared to the video games. In the video games, Death is basically Dracula's right-hand man.
Yeah.
Whereas in the anime, Death was like, I just want to bring Dracula back to life, so basically he can kill more people and I can get more souls.
Also,
so
Death was like a much more like fucking severe, intimidating presence in the show than he is in the games.
Definitely an amazing climax.
It certainly helped that, you know, you got Malcolm fucking McDowell to be his voice. Like,
yeah.
But, so he was like, I don't like that. Hey, Alucard, do you want to come? Basically, he wasn't like, kill your dad again, but like, stop your dad from being resurrected.
Make sure dad stays dead.
You do fight Dracula at the end of that one, but like, it's more just, we have to wrap it up. Staff is the main villain there. In Portrait of Ruin, which is where we get Drolta and Erzsébet from, she is Dracula's niece, I think? And she, like everyone else, is just seeking to bring Dracula back, and you have to stop her. You're not even technically playing a Belmont in that game. You're just, like, some dude. You're some dude.
Every hero starts as just some dude.
How's it going, dude? And she's the one who starts World War One.
Vampires in World War One. There we go. Castlevania 3.
Oh my god.
They did World War II as well.
Oh, just wait till Netflix gets there.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Bloodlines. Portrait of Ruin is the one with World War II. My bad.
Yeah. As you can tell, my knowledge of Castlevania is basically nerd osmosis, because I had a friend from high school who was a big fan of the classic series. He wasn't a big fan of the newer games after Symphony of the Night, so basically all my stuff I've learned is through him. So I did play the first game on the NES, hard as fuck.
There are a lot of good games. I do think, like I said towards the beginning, Bloodlines was a take it or leave it. Rondo was an absolute shit show until the remake. I think Symphony of the Night did as well as it did because Alucard was the main playable character.
It was also a big departure, too, because it wasn't just a traditional side-scroller. It was, you go through a maze and basically play Metroid. Like every other game was, a typical side-scroller, go from one level to the next, and that was the one that really changed the formula of the series.
Yeah. So, Drolta, definitely a fucking glow-up from Bloodlines. She was just an old hag who wasn't, a bodyguard, second-in-command. She was, manipulating Erzsébet into resurrecting Dracula, because prior to that, Erzsébet was just kind of chilling in her room, vibing. And when I say vibing, I mean a fucking dead ass asleep.
Well, I mean, sometimes you need a nap.
Yeah. Erzsébet wasn't, this super awful character in the game. Not that she was necessarily sympathetic, but, she did bad thing, suffered consequence for bad thing, then decided, okay, I'm just gonna fucking sleep it all off and leave me be. And then she had, this old witch come in and be like,
yeah, as far as Erzsébet, I'm just gonna call her Bathory.
I'm gonna say it's a glow
having
down.
A lot of trouble. She does show up this season, which may have been a bit of a mistake. I think the first season, Castlevania Dracula, was almost more of a force of nature than a character, which might have done better for them. They kind of have her being that halfway point between Carmilla and Dracula, and it
she looks
do nearly as well as either of them.
She looks so fucking stupid.
They were going for some sort of grand kind of thing, and it just
it's giving Queen of Hearts, Tim Burton.
Yeah.
Oh, that was it.
Yeah, very much so.
I was like, those old paintings of, like, what was her name? Queen Victoria or something? Whoever married herself. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Such a glow down.
Well, wait till she gets
and
I don't want to say what happens. But...
I was going to make a joke, but that's a spoiler joke, so I'm not going to say it.
Different later.
Is anyone into furries?
Well, no, I was just going to say, wait till you see her final form.
That's what I'm saying, man.
Yeah.
Not great.
But there is one thing that we forgot to mention. Well, two things. Number one, I think, like the first season, the music was pretty good. And what did you all think of the voice cast? Because I have a mixed opinion on the voice cast.
Boy. I hated it.
I think at the very least, Richter was a mistake.
Okay.
I actually liked Richter the most. He was, well, not the most, but I liked Richter. I'll be honest, I liked Richter, Annette, Maria. I did not like Tara's voice actress that much. Like, I didn't mind Tara as a character, but I thought her voice was a little subpar. I hate to use that word.
I thought Maria's voice was bad.
I blame that on an experience. She was like 16 or something.
Okay. It was like she had never acted in her life, man.
See,
I hate to hate on her, but...
She has acted.
Didn't mind that as much because Maria is supposed to be like a little girl. Like, the animation does not convey it, and I don't know if canonically they changed it for the show.
I think they did.
Yeah, I think they did.
Yeah, she's 16 in the show.
That design they pulled, like I said, straight from Dracula X when she's a 10-year-old.
She just felt very flat to me. Every time she spoke, it was like there was not a single emotion.
Well, I'm gonna say this. I don't think anyone was particular standout. Other than maybe some of the villains, because mostly they're just doing mustache-twirly fun villain.
Oh yeah, no, the villains were doing a good job.
Orlok's good.
I can only say, for me, forget the voice acting. The animation fucking bothered me.
Some of it was kind of weird.
So here's the thing. It's one of those you guys have heard me talk about before where I don't necessarily always like 3D animation when it's supposed to look 2D.
Yeah.
I hate that. They were doing a lot of that with this, and it was kind of taking me out of the show as I was watching it, because a lot of the still images, beautiful. But they start moving, I'm like, oh, that doesn't look right. And then the fight scenes, I'm like, also doesn't look okay.
Yeah, there was some moments in the action throughout the whole show that I thought was really good. But I do agree, there was some action moments where I could almost see the frames stuttering a little bit. And believe me, I'm saying this as someone who's sitting on my ass on a couch. I can't imagine what it's like being an animator and animating that stuff. But I will say...
You can tell the scenes where also, the budget went.
Yeah, but also just like... digital 2D animation is also perfectly fine. You don't have to do 3D.
Yeah, and also
granted, it
season
might be a bit easier to animate, at least on a rig, but I don't know. It doesn't always look the best.
And also, it didn't help too. It also didn't help too that in all 4 seasons of the original show, especially 3 and 4, the fights were just drop dead gorgeous. Like, they were some of the best animated fights I've ever seen. Like, the climax to season 3 and the fight with Carmilla and Isaac in season 4. Chef's kiss. That was just that was really good.
To kind of add on to that, I am also gonna say, like, there were a lot of moments where, like, they were essentially jump cutting the, like, fight choreography.
Yes.
And in animation, you don't need to do that. Like, I don't understand the decision-making that was behind a lot of this stuff. Because, like, you use jump cuts to hide bad fight scenes in real life, but, like, you can work around that in animation.
It may be a stylistic thing because a lot of filmmakers do that nowadays. It's become the style that people are most used to seeing and therefore thinking.
Fucking likes the jump cuts.
I understand that, but it can still translate into over into other things. I mean, not everybody shoots like John Wick, unfortunately.
It makes the fight look messy and, like, hard to follow.
It's jarring, to say the least.
What were you gonna say about it, animation?
I honestly kind of forgot.
Okay.
I think I was just saying, I think the character designs were really good, but I do think when they moved around a lot, it almost like you could see how they didn't belong in the environment. I don't know how else to describe it,
That
but it's
about right.
like it's like the background. It didn't feel like they were part of it. I don't know. I just feel like perhaps the characters were so 3D animated in those moments that the environment looked flat, like the backgrounds, and it was very jarring. It almost looked like they were cut out of the scenery.
It's like some of the worst parts of where you can tell that Ufotable uses 3D characters on a 2D background.
Yeah, exactly. However, I do think there were some scenes, like there was one scene in the episode of Annette's backstory where she was running and it looked beautiful. I think the direction was great and it was very like artistically different for a moment. And then during his stupid power-up later on that was spoiled, I think there were moments that the animation looked really nice. Like you could tell that they were really putting a lot into it and it looked beautiful and fluid. And then it kind of went back to looking wonky. It's like you could tell the moments they put in a lot of money and thought into how they were animating it, and then other times it fell flat. So I think it was on and off for me in terms of the animation. I just wish it was more consistent, you know?
What gets me, and not all of it, but a decent portion of it, and part of it is because I'm also thinking of other elements that really seem to have some similarities to it. Some of it looked like that first opening to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Oh, yes, it did.
Yeah, it's fair.
Which is not helped by the fact that Belmont in this is the poor man's Joseph Joestar.
Yep.
A little bit.
Because what is he? British-born American who's now in Europe during a time of social upheaval, who fights vampires with a magical inner energy that can create fires and shit like that. He's fighting an Aztec vampire, and during his big anime power-up moment, he puts on a headband.
You know,
this bitch
that's
witch.
his original design. Though.
That's a callback to his original design.
I know, but he puts it on like
the way that they incorporated the bandana in the show. Yeah, I did think that was Joseph Joestar.
Like, this bitch wishes.
Yeah, that was gonna be like my entire thing. It was like, I didn't hate this kind of because it reminded me so much of Battle Tendency. But at the same time, when I was watching it, when I was watching
sassy.
Battle Tendency, I was liking it ironically. I was like, this is so hideous and ridiculous that I love it. So I don't think that's like really a good point to make for this.
This is the poor man's Battle Tendency.
Little bit.
It's really unfortunate too, because Richter is supposed to be like this really suave, like gentleman-like person.
You mean like Jonathan?
Yeah.
And then he's just kind of a dick.
Yeah, he's just like a little self-absorbed bitch in this one.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which is part of why the voice actor bothered me, because, like, I know, like, they're trying to be like, oh, he's young, but, like, God, like, it just felt like a douche bro.
They made him... Oh, go on.
Al, you brought up, like, the accent thing very briefly there. What the fuck were all of these accents?
Apparently no one knew how to do French, so they were just like, we're not even going to try.
They're British
now. That's what I was
British ones
wondering.
I'm like, either.
I'm like, what are these accents? Why aren't they talking with French ones?
That always bothers me. If it's in a European country, but they're talking in English, they'll just use a British accent. But the British accent wasn't invented, quotation marks, until like the 1800s. So even if they were speaking in English, it would not sound like that. It would sound more like American.
Like, in the time frame of like old Wallachia, everyone had like an accent that was kind of like British derived, but it was still like very distinctly othered. I feel like. And then this one, like, they were just all over.
It's just like they were also using British slang the entire time, so it's like that bloody wanker, and it's like what? What are you talking about right now? You're supposed to be French. It was just weird.
Bloody wanker must be from the East End of Paris.
Another thing Kozi caught that I did not was what's the kid's name? Maria? She was something, the poor people for miles, and she was like, wait a minute, if we're in France, we're not using miles. So I looked it up. It wasn't until a year after that this takes place that the French invented kilometers.
Yeah.
And before that, they did use miles.
Yeah.
So we learned something interesting.
But
why would they use miles and not leagues?
Of measurement.
They were not exactly the miles we use today.
They were much shorter.
They were much shorter. Weren't they also like... Didn't the British also use miles as well around that time?
The British still use miles, I found out.
Okay.
You learn something new every day.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe this was targeted more toward a British audience.
Who knows? Maybe.
And that's why it all sounded so contemporary.
I feel like the British would be offended by the accents they put on.
Probably.
They'd be like, those bloody wanker.
Except for Grandpa, because he's actually... Hang on.
Is he actually British?
I want to check. He's either British or Scottish or something like that. Which I know is very different, and I should not...
The actor that played him.
Hang on. Before I get people mad at me. He's from Edinburgh.
Okay.
Yes.
So he's a Scot.
But, all in all, like, Richter is supposed to be, like, a more put-together version of, like, Trevor. Like, not so much of a mess.
I mean, we'll say this. As far as their introductions go, Richter wasn't drunk the whole time.
Yeah. But he doesn't feel like a put-together version of Trevor.
He just feels like a child that does not yet have a drinking problem.
Every Belmont gets a drinking problem eventually.
Yeah, for all that Trevor was like a drunken mess, like there was still a bit of like
a functioning adult.
Yeah, kind of like a gentleman in him.
He had a character. He was essentially the reluctant hero archetype. He didn't want to be involved with what he was involved in, but ultimately he couldn't watch innocent people getting hurt. He had a motivation from the beginning. Richter doesn't. And that's,
he was also charismatic and shit like that.
I mean that the actor was probably just a little bit better. I think ultimately, I don't think any of the actors here are as good as the original cast was, but beyond that, I go back to the writing element. I think the original actors from the first series had more to work with. They had characters with character and motivation, and that can help make a performance.
Richter had this character, and they just...
It's a fucking boring character.
They tried to shoehorn trauma into it and make that all it's about, but it doesn't work.
They just tried to make him like
Trevor was typical. More than his trauma.
Yeah.
I was actually watching some clips from the original show the other day, and I was just the main trio of Trevor, Sypha, and Alucard. Their voice actors probably had... I don't know if they recorded together or not, but they had the time of their lives probably recording that.
Yeah, damn, Sypha? Characters with chemistry.
Where did you park the castle?
I miss Sypha.
Right above us.
See? God hates me.
The scene where she breaks down swearing for the first time, I laughed so hard the first time I watched that.
I think I might go rewatch Castlevania after this.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah,
all right,
even her just going, Belnades and Belmont. I miss that.
I don't think I ever saw seasons 3 or 4.
I'll watch them. They're worth a watch.
Oh, yeah, so much happens.
Yeah.
I think I watched
you might as well,
twice and
I'm gonna throw this out there. If it's been a while, you might as well rewatch the first bit. It's not that long of a series. You might as well go do it. In the meantime, though, I think we should probably be wrapping this up. I'm going to overall say I feel like there was a lot of potential here. I feel like they missed the mark on a couple spots, but I also see potential that they could fix some stuff with the season 2. I'm going to put an overall meh here. Not entirely happy, but not as disappointed as I could be by this.
That sounds fair.
I'm gonna give it a nay. I think there were just way more cons for me than pros. I don't feel like it really improved on anything from the original. I think it just kind of disappointed in a lot of areas. Even in terms of the animation and stuff, I feel like it was a bit of a downgrade, which I expected the animation to look just as good or better. And yeah, I just feel like the characters were lacking, whereas I really fell in love with the characters in the original one, and the main trio here just doesn't grab me as much. I don't know. There were some bright spots. I think some characters could be really good later on, like Annette. But I feel like having a main character like Richter, especially towards the end, just kind of brings it down for me. Whereas I really like Trevor.
Main character is a very generous descriptor.
Yeah, whatever you want to call him. But I don't know. There was just, to me, nothing that grabbed me or left an impression the way that the original did. So I don't know. I don't really know that I'd continue, except maybe to see Alucard, because he did appear at the end, and I love Alucard, so maybe I'd give an episode.
That was a spoiler, so.
Wow.
Oh my
God. We spoiled half the rest of it.
I mean, Symphony of the Night is tied into it. Like, he was going to come back.
Like, we all knew he was going to show up, right?
He's the only person they could have.
I did not know for sure he did.
Oh, shit. I'm sorry.
He's fucking immortal. Of course he was going to show up.
Well, I told you, he was the main character of Symphony of the Night. Like, he was...
So you kind of
I didn't talk about it in Rondo of Blood, but, like, Alucard kind of, like, raised Richter, which probably contributed to his gentlemanly ways.
Well, maybe there's room for improvement
then. Not this one.
I'll give this a light nay. I was overall kind of unimpressed. I think they were trying some things with this one. I'm not really sure they thought it out that well. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just how I was feeling when I was watching it. Granted, I haven't been feeling the best this week. So, I don't know. I feel like more could have been done with this, and I feel like it could have been treated with a lot more care and more thought, could have gone into a lot of pretty much everything. So, yeah, suffice to say, I'm a little disappointed.
Well, I'm a yay. I'm a light yay, because I do have some problems with some characters and some story beats, but I think the way it ended in season 1, I'm interested to see how it'll go in season 2, because I wonder if it's going to be like a 2-part season, like a 2-part show, because it could either wrap up really quickly, or they can do something to Alucard in season 2 that could make the show go on longer, but I won't go into that, because that's a major spoiler for Symphony of the Night. As far as this show, like I said, I'm a yay. I'd put it for me personally, I'd put it in between the original series. So, like, the order in which I like Castlevania on Netflix is season 2, season 1, Nocturne, 4, and 3. That's how I do it.
Stacey.
Oh, is it my turn? I feel like it's been a while since we've actually gone through and did the yays and nays in order.
Yeah.
I forgot that's what this podcast was. I'm gonna give it a meh, I think. I'm gonna see where it goes before I pass judgment. At least finish this season. I do like that it... I don't know if like's the right word. It does remind me of JoJo, though. Which is a good or a bad thing.
Disgusting.
I also...
Everything's a JoJo reference.
When they shoot it like one, then yes.
I didn't really like the, I mean, I guess, alright. I have been... Oh, words are so hard.
Do we need to come back to you?
Words are hard, listen. We're listening, that's the problem. You're not saying anything.
I'll edit it together, we'll make it work.
The, slave owners were vampires thing. I guess they didn't really say that all slave owners were vampires. But it kind of sucks that they did take it in that direction. I've been getting really annoyed about that in media lately, that, like, oh, the slave owners, oh, the Nazis, they were supernatural beings. Humans aren't capable of that kind of evil, because it's just kind of brushing it under the rug. Like, yeah, no. But, like, no, people were capable of being that evil. Yeah. And pretending like they weren't is just going to make history repeat itself.
Yeah.
So I did not like that, and if we do get to World War II and all of the Nazis are vampires, I'm not going to enjoy that.
Oh boy, well, you would not like the Helsing plot of Van Helsing, yeah.
I mean, at least in Indiana Jones, they weren't supernatural, they were just looking for supernatural artifacts to help them.
Which was actually something they did. So, historically accurate, strangely enough.
Including the Ark of the Covenant, damn right.
Yep.
Yeah. 1 point for Indiana Jones. And 1 point against Nocturne.
I'm gonna have to be a nay here. I feel like a lot of people, at least in my personal orbit, when they were talking about this, they really hyped it up. They were like, it's pretty equivalent to the original, and it's really not comparable at all. And beyond that, as someone who was a fan of the Castlevania games, it really doesn't hold, like, anything, because this is, like, a completely original plot. Like, none of this happened anywhere in the games. Like I said, they're mushing two together to, like, spit out a new idea. Whereas, like, the original, they loosely followed what happens in the Castlevania game. And I really don't know who they made this for, because I feel like most people who liked the original Castlevania wouldn't really like this, and people who liked the games wouldn't like this. And when you look at just Season 1 on its own, it can't stand up. Like, if you come into the series not knowing anything, like, you haven't played the games, or you haven't watched the original, like, you have no fucking clue what's going on, and none of it means anything, and you don't care about anything that's happening. Like, it could potentially get better as the seasons go on, but just off of Season 1, it can't stand under its own weight. That's it. End of thought.
Oh, okay. Alright, well, a little bit mixed to some degree. Seem to be leaning a little bit on the lower side for most of us, but hey. Alright, so next week, we've been doing these, the Netflix original anime horror stuff that we've been doing, but we're going to take a break from that next week for a special reason. It's going to be my birthday, so we're going to watch a movie that I want to watch. So that's, a good enough excuse for me, and it's on Netflix, which ties in well enough. We're watching a movie called Secrets in the Hot Springs. It is a horror comedy from Taiwan, and it's absolutely fantastic. I won't tell you anymore. Go check it out now. Go check it out before we talk about it. It's worth it. Come back and we'll talk about it. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell icon for notifications. If you enjoy this video, give us a like, and if you haven't already, check out some of our previous episodes, our daily gaming videos, or our parody series, Madoka Magically Abridged. See you next time!